Should you, as an author, create a live stream book launch party for your upcoming book releases? The answer is absolutely yes, because right now the social platforms all value video and live video. We know that people take about 1 to 3 seconds to decide if they're going to stick around for a video, and they'll last about 7 seconds on a video. But when it comes to creating a live stream, they're going to stick around for up to 15 seconds to decide if it's going to be a good fit for them. And then once they're on these live streams, they stay for prolonged periods of time, much longer than that average 7 seconds, because they don't know what's coming next. They know that it's a live stream format, meaning they can interact with you in real time. And as you are giving out calls to action to interact with you during these parties, they're going to stick around. You're going to get a lot more engagement because you're doing things in the moment and because they're here in real time, knowing that they will not have that engagement with you later on if they watch your replay. So live streams are promoted highly on the social platforms and are a really great way to connect with your audience. And we're seeing all the social platforms heavily push their live stream component right now because we know it works so dang well for keeping people on the apps and for getting that engagement and building up community. So as an author, a great way to reach out to your audience is weekly live streams, hanging out with your people. But if you've got a book launch, this is an amazing opportunity for you to level up what you're doing so that you can do all sorts of really fun things with your people. So the first thing you need to do when it comes to creating your live stream book party, and I'm going to break all this down for you as somebody who has been doing this for many years. I've been a published author for 5 years. I have done live book launch parties for all of my stories on all the different platforms in lots of different ways. But even before that, I was helping professional authors with big publishing houses create live stream book launch parties even before the social platforms had live stream components. We were doing it on a webinar platform back in the day. So I'm going to break down everything I know because I am literally the leading person on how we did this, and I was one of the first ones to do it, and I was the first to educate on it. So let's break this down. The first thing you need to do is pick a platform. Now, right now, we know that we have access to a lot. You can live stream on YouTube, you can live stream on LinkedIn, you can live stream on Facebook and on Instagram and on TikTok and all sorts of platforms. And for some of these, you can actually simulcast as well. So you have to pick which platform is going to be best for you and, more importantly, for your audience. So where are your people? Where do they hang out? Where are you going to be able to interact best with your audience? For a lot of people, it's no longer going to be on Facebook and it's no longer going to be on YouTube. The best places right now might actually be TikTok because it's so easy to find it in the Explore tab as you're live, or YouTube. So you want to make sure that as you're doing this, you're picking one that's going to work best for you and for your audience. So where are you building up your audience? Where do you want to do this? I want you to pause for just a minute and pick out your best platforms. Where do you like to hang out? Now, keep in mind, there are some rules and regulations, so let me break this down for you. You can simulcast to multiple locations, like YouTube and Facebook, at the same time. And we're going to talk about how to do that in just a minute, so don't panic over that. But we know that Instagram and we know that TikTok have their APIs closed, meaning you cannot live stream there and another place. It's just not possible because you can't use a third-party app to then broadcast out there. The only ones that do that are illegal, and you can get in big trouble for using those. So you have to go direct, or you have to stream natively through TikTok or through Instagram. You have to do it directly on your phone. You can't go elsewhere. There are some limitations within that. With Instagram, you can only reach out to the people who are following you. So they're going to be notified that you're live. It's not going to go beyond that. With TikTok, you have to have 1,000 subscribers to go live. So you have to get your following up, whereas on Instagram, you can do it from the very beginning. Now, on TikTok, it does not save your video. You can go in and download your video after the fact as long as there were no glitches. On Instagram, you can put it directly in your feed so people can watch a replay. On things like YouTube and Facebook, there are replays. So you have to decide what's going to be the best fit for you. Now, you can repurpose all of this content, and this is something we're going to talk about in a few minutes. So no matter what platform you are going live on, you do have the ability to grab that content and put it elsewhere. So we'll talk about that in a minute. Don't worry too much about that. And I'm going to give you some tips and tricks on that one as well. But you need to pick the platform you want to go live on. So do you want to go live on YouTube and Facebook at the same time? Go for it. Do you want to go live on TikTok because it's going to get in that Explore tab or that feed on the FYP page? Or do you want to go on Instagram where it's going to keep it in part of your grid after the fact? Think about it now. And there's no right or wrong answer to this. And sometimes you can do more than one. And sometimes you have the ability to just bounce around and do different things at different times and different places. For one party, you can actually do like a crawl across your social platforms. You have the ability to say this book is going to be on TikTok and this book is going to be on Instagram, and you can decide as you go. But a great thing to do in advance is to test these platforms with normal live streams that are not parties. Go and do a Q&A, go and do an Ask Me Anything, go and talk or teach about something. It's going to be a really good way for you to kind of get a feel for what's going to be the best platform for you and what you're going to get the most interaction on. So if you do decide to do simulcasting, or if you're going to be streaming to YouTube, or to Facebook, or to Twitch, or to LinkedIn, I highly recommend a third-party streaming platform. That means you're going to want to use BeLive, or Restream, or Melon, all of which I will link down below with extended free trials. You're welcome. That's because I work directly with these platforms. I get to do fun things for you guys. And with these third-party platforms, you are then able to do a lot of extra things. So when you stream on TikTok or when you stream on Instagram, you're very limited in your ability to show things on screen, or to have overlays, or to have guests on your platform. With a third-party platform like BeLive or Restream or Melon or whatever, you then have the ability to have more guests on screen. You can have words just like I have on screen right now. You can have backgrounds and you can have overlays and you can do all sorts of really cool things to level up what you're doing, which when we get to the party part of this is actually incredibly helpful. And if you go back on my YouTube channel, you can actually see a bunch of my book launch parties. So you can see what I've done over the years. You can see the iterations, things that have changed, things that I've kept consistent through all of these parties, and you can see what fits well for you and maybe know what doesn't work so well anymore because these iterations are changing as the times are changing. So you're going to want to pick one of those third-party platforms. I'll link them down below for you again with the extended free trials because I have all the connections for you. And I've got tutorials on my main channel. So you can head over to youtube.com/KMRobinson where I have full-on tutorials on how to use all these things so you can pick the right fit for you. And there's just tons of information. If you've got questions on any of that, please drop them down below. I'm an expert on all of these things, like the actual expert. They pay me to teach about their platforms on my platform and on their platform. So I have the answers. So go ahead and drop those down below for me if that's something that you are interested in learning a little bit more about. And again, those do not work for Instagram or for TikTok right now as of the time of this recording because they have not opened up their APIs. Fingers crossed they will change that in the future. I have been on TikTok's case for 2 years, so we'll see how that works. Once you decide where you're going to have your party and what you're going to do to broadcast your party, you then need to schedule a time. So when are you going to do this party? I do not want this to be a surprise. This is not a surprise book release, okay? I know I do surprise book releases all the time, and then I have a surprise party for the surprise book release, but that's a thing. For most of you, you are going to have pre-orders for your books. You're going to be talking about your book. It's going to be something that is a big deal that you've built up for this. So you need to schedule a time for this and then promote it well in advance, at least like 2 weeks in advance so people know that it's coming. If you have a thing that's coming like in the very distant future, if you've got months until your book release, you can promote it early. That's fine too, but definitely you want to ramp that up around 2 weeks before your event. So you're picking a location and a day and a time, and you're going to be incredibly vocal about it because in your marketing, you have to know when this is going to be so you can reiterate it over and over and over again. And when it comes to marketing, you do want to make sure you're including time zones because I am on the East Coast and I will say it's at 7 p.m. Eastern, but then I also have to say what time it is in Pacific time because the West Coasters need to know too. And it's really easy for us to forget that there's tons of time zones and it's all very highly problematic. So give at least East Coast, West Coast time. That's super important. So I would say 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific so that people know and then they can figure out their own time if they're central or if they're, across the world, which a lot of my fans are. So give them at least 2 times and help them to be able to figure out that time zone. And then you're going to need to move on to your marketing. So at that point, you need to be creating graphics. If it is somewhere where you can schedule a live stream early, schedule it early. You can put it up on your YouTube channel and you can put it up on your Facebook page. You can actually schedule them on TikTok and Instagram as well. And you can promote it as you are putting out more content. It will then link it so that people know you have an upcoming event. So you want to make sure you've got a link to an event that you can be sending out to people. Now, here's a pro tip for you. When you are doing this, you're going to get a long string of letters and numbers and things inside of your link. Don't do that. You all have a website because you're professional authors. It's important. You have to have a website. So you're going to go in and make a subdomain, and then you're going to redirect the subdomain there. So you're just going to do booklaunch.yourwebsite.com. and then you're going to redirect it to that link. So when they just type in booklaunch.whatever.com, that is going to send them to the event so that they don't have to type it in. Now, some people will say to do like a shortened link. That's not great. People aren't going to remember that. So yes, it's easy for them to type in, but they're not going to remember it. The key is that you have something easy that you can say while you're on other live streams or in other videos and doing other events. You want to make sure that you have something that's easy for you to remember to send them there. So you don't want bit.ly.234L, whatever, because you're not going to remember that, and they're not going to remember that. So make it easy. Booklaunch.kmrobinsonbooks.com, and that'll kick them over, and that'll be so easy for you to remember, so easy for them to remember. Really, really effective way of getting people to your event even beforehand. You want to be creating marketing graphics, so you should have pictures of you and pictures of the book and bright, colorful things, because we know colorful things get people's attention. You want to make sure in big words you're talking book launch, book party, book release, something that's going to indicate, hey, we're dropping a new book and this is not something you're going to want to miss. So heighten the excitement for this. Make it really, really interesting for them to see visually and to understand what you're going to be doing, and then hardcore market 2 weeks beforehand, and you can do it longer than that if you want, but hardcore marketing 2 weeks before your event to make sure that people are aware of what's coming up. Now, once you've got your event planned and figured out, we actually need to deal with what's happening inside of the event. So you can't just say, hey, I'm having a book release party, and then just hope people show up and then just like try to pull a rabbit out of your hat. That's not going to work to your benefit. Don't try that. It's not going to work. You actually have to have a plan, and you don't need to tell them the entire plan. You can be vague about it. I say the 3 Gs: games, giveaways, guests. That's a great way to start, but you could have a lot of things there. You should also decide your time limit for this. Anywhere between half an hour and an hour is good. I wouldn't go over an hour. I would not go under half an hour. Usually I'd say 20 minutes for a live stream, but I would say for a party, for a book launch, at least half an hour. 30 to 60 minutes is going to be good. And you want to make sure you've got games, giveaways, and guests. You don't have to have guests, but like it's a cool thing to do. Games and giveaways though, for sure. So you want to make sure that you know what you're doing. Now you can tell them we've got games, giveaways, and guests, and you don't have to tell them anything else than that. But for you, you need to make sure you've got this plan very strategically. So I want you like minute by minute to plan out what you're going to do. And you don't have to adhere exactly to it, but you have to have a very pretty strong basis of what you are going to be doing. So make sure you know the first 5 minutes is going to be this, and the next 5 minutes is going to be this. And then you can kind of go with the flow from there. So you're going to want to do things like games, things that get people talking. You want to get comments during these, because the more comments you get during a live stream, the higher you're ranked in the algorithm system and the more your video is kicked out to people. This is going to be incredibly important. So you want to make sure you're getting things said to get them to interact. So you can play games, and you can do giveaways, and you can bring on guests. Now, here's a pro tip with guests. A lot of authors will create parties because we had this really horrible idea back in the day that people should have other authors come promote their books during their book launch party. So I would have like 5 guests on, and the other people would promote their books during my party, which makes no sense. It totally negates what you're doing. It does not promote them in any way. It doesn't work well for anybody. Don't do that. It's just ick. We don't like it. We don't want it. Have guests on to have conversations. You can talk about themes and tropes and genres, and you can, they can mention their books a little bit, but we don't want to be pitching books to these people. This is a party. We're not here to pitch them, okay? So as you're creating your event, I want you to keep in mind, this is not a timeshare pitch. They're not here to get something free, to hear about all these books and to be sold to. This is a fun event where you're celebrating. So talk about the behind the scenes of how you created your story and what you did to bring it to life, and your characters, and talk about what they go through and the genres and the tropes and why they like it. You could do a book reading. You could do all sorts of things. Introduce them to your characters. Show off character art. I loved when I was doing a bunch of book parties especially in the early days, I would do adult coloring sheets for people. And I would do like actual party games where I had people, my guests and things, drawing things on paper. Once upon a time, because I had a very fashiony character, I had people put paper on top of their head and draw the characters like you would do at like a bridal shower or like a baby shower. We tried things. It was, and actually they loved it, but you can do all sorts of like fun, cute, kitschy games just because it's fun. Remember, we're celebrating here. So you want to make sure you've got games, you've got giveaways. So you can give away ebooks, you can give away paperback books or hardcover books, you can give away swag, you can give away, whatever you want. You can be as creative with this as you want. You can do digital giveaways of like character art or swag, or like even a 15-minute Skype meeting with you to help with their books or whatever you want. Get creative with it. And then if you can have guests, it's going to make it better because it gives you somebody to talk to. When it comes to creating parties and events and things like this, having someone to talk to is a total lifesaver. That means you do not have to carry the weight of this entire thing the entire time, 30 to 60 minutes. So if you can have a guest or guests come on, that'd be great. Now, bonus points if those people will then ask you questions about your book. You can have them interview you. You could talk about fun things. You could have them play games with you. Like, they don't have to be here pitching their books, and they don't have to carry this conversation either. They don't have to be interviewing you, but they can participate in what you're doing. So if you're playing games with your audience, they can play too. They can do all sorts of fun things too, and they can help choose people for the giveaways and whatever. So have guests on. It can be one guest, it can be multiple guests, or you can do it entirely by yourself. It really depends on what you want for your event and how many people you know and how many people are going to be jumping in here. But that actually brings me to my next conversation, because you don't want to be talking to an empty room. You want to have the conversation, whether it's with somebody on screen or somebody in your audience. And one of the things I love to do is to plant audience members. Get people you know and trust to come show up to your party. Your sister, your mom, your best friend. Nobody needs to know who they are. Get some fans. If you're an established author, you already have fans. Get them to show up. And you can have them, prepped to ask you certain questions in the comments if you want to get really, really specific about it. Or you can say, hey, can you kind of help with the conversation? Can you ask some questions, or can you talk to me while I'm on air? Can you make sure I'm not nervous and I have something to say? Like, can you be there to be supportive of me? And you will more oftentimes than not have people say, absolutely, I would love to show up. You can even pair up with other authors and say, hey, listen, you don't have to be on camera. You don't have to look cute, but I do need you to come show up and hang out. And then when it's your turn, I'll come hang out and show up for you too. This is a really great way to then also share audience members. So if they've got fans, they can bring their fans to the party, and then you can bring your fans to their party and help each other make more sales when it's your individual turns. So planting audience members is going to keep you calm. It's going to give you a reason to talk to people. And if you have specific questions you want asked, you can have them do that as well. So just make sure you have that in mind in advance. Don't wait until 5 minutes before your party and say, hey, can you come help me out? Don't do that. Make sure you have that set up in advance if that's something you want or need. Now, another thing you need to be aware of is that you are going to be repurposing this content. Even if you do something on Instagram or on TikTok where it disappears altogether, you should have a plan to repurpose this content. You are going to take whatever video you've created on whatever platform and put it on YouTube, because YouTube is owned by Google. They are a search engine. And when people are looking for you, for your book, or for book launch parties or events or like all sorts of things, your genres and tropes, you then have the ability to be found as they are doing these searches. So you want to make sure you're planning to repurpose. You will always download that video and put it on YouTube after the fact for people to then watch the replay, even if it's on Instagram where there is a replay in your grid, or even if it's on Facebook where there is it lives inside of your feed as well. You want to make sure you get that on YouTube. And if you do it specifically to YouTube, it actually just lives on YouTube and you don't have to download it and like re-upload it. It just lives on YouTube like a video. So you're good to go with that one. Now, if you need help with this, I have full videos on how to save this footage. Sometimes you can download it directly from TikTok or Instagram or wherever, and you can, but sometimes there's glitches and sometimes there's issues and all sorts of things. So I highly recommend you're either screen recording it or you're tethering it to your computer and screen recording it. And then you can also download it from there. Also remember, with TikTok and Instagram, it doesn't download your comments after the fact. Once you're done streaming, those go away forever. So if you're not recording it while you're live, you're going to lose those. So I will link those videos for you down below so that you know how to do that. Just check out those tutorials because I've got the whole thing there for you so that you know exactly how to do. Now, how long should your launch party be? We talked a little bit about this in the beginning. I would say no less than half an hour, because it's a party. It's not a normal live stream. It's a party. So you want to make sure it is for sure at least 30 minutes and you've got several different segments within it. And that's the really important part, that you're having segments. It's not just you talking to the camera the whole time or answering questions. You can have a game, and then you can have an intro. And then you can have a reading where you're doing the first couple pages of your book. And then you can have a Q&A time. And then you can have another game. Like, there are ways to put these segments in there so people can be involved and interactive. And always make sure you're giving those calls to action so that they are typing in the comments. So you're saying, hey, are you loving this game? Or what game should we do next? This or this? Or do you think if we're playing like truth or dare or two truths and a lie is where I was going with that one. Which one do you think is the lie? You're getting people to interact. Do you want to do the book reading next, or do you want to do the Q&A next? Take polls, ask questions. There's lots of ways to get people involved in this as well. And you want to make sure you're using that to as much benefit as you can. Now, your party should not go over an hour because that's just a really long time for a party. Some live streams can go an hour and a half, but a launch party should stick to right around an hour. We're going to be very precise about our timing with this. So either 30 minutes, 45 minutes, or 60 minutes. You're going to want to have that, and have that in your marketing too, so that people know how long it's going to be, so that they do want to show up while you're still live, and they don't have that, well, I don't want to like commit to this and then be there for 3 hours. Be very clear. It is a 30-minute party. It is a 60-minute party. Here's what we're doing. Here's what you'll miss out on. Here's the opportunities you won't have, especially for things like giveaways. You want to encourage them to show up live because they won't be eligible for certain fun things and prizes and extras if they're not there during the live event. So you want to make sure that as you are creating your live launch parties, you are taking a couple things into consideration. Your timing for this. When is it going to be best fit for people? When are people going to be around and available to do this? Here's a hint. Weekends are not it. People are busy on the weekends. People are busy during the school day and work day. So you want to do it maybe in the evening or maybe late afternoon. You don't want to do it first thing in the morning because if you're on the East Coast, the West Coast is still asleep. You want to make sure that you're taking into consideration when people will be around. You want to make sure that you're planting people in your audience so that they know when to communicate with you, because when people see other people communicating with you, they're much more likely to then be able to take that and do that as well. Because none of us want to be the first person commenting. We just don't. So if you plan somebody, you're going to be good to go. You want to make sure you have very specific things scheduled for your timing during this party and interesting, engaging events. And then you need to take into consideration where you're going live, how you're going live, what program you're going to be using to go live, how you're going to then capture your footage to repurpose later on, and how you're going to then repurpose it. Remember, you don't just have to put it in its entirety on YouTube. You can actually take clips and put it out on social media. You can show it off on TikTok and Instagram. You can be using these as shorter videos on your YouTube page, all sorts of fun things when it comes to repurposing this content and any live streams that you are doing, to make sure you're making the most out of those and getting the most engagement for what you are creating. If you have questions on live streaming for launch parties, drop those down below, or live streaming as an author in general. I'm happy to get your questions answered, and you can hang out at livestreamactionplan.com, where I have tons of resources and education on how you can be live streaming to grow your business online and to really grow your community and conversation. I will see you in our next episode as we continue to help you level up inside of your author career.